The United Kingdom is on fire, and I mean that literally. Look at your screen. That is not some foreign war zone. That is our country tonight. Our hospitals are burning. Our streets have become battlefields. And where is the Prime Minister? Nowhere to be seen. This is the worst civil unrest in a generation. 12 major hospitals across Northern Ireland have been attacked. Over 90,000 citizens are currently clashing with regime enforcers in a kinetic rejection of the state. But the most horrific image isn't the fire, it is the human cost. 6,000 sick and elderly patients have been thrown out into the cold night, people midway through chemotherapy, survivors recovering from heart attacks, frail pensioners, all forcibly evicted from their wards as the buildings were besieged. Some are standing on the pavement in nothing but their thin hospital gowns, shivering in the damp air, watching the very institutions built to save them burn to the ground. The damage currently stands at a grotesque £112 million. But here is the truth the mainstream media is terrified to tell you. This was not random violence. This was not mindless thuggery. This was a direct, violent explosion caused by one thing, a Westminster establishment led by this Labour government.
Masked rioters attacked police with bricks, fireworks, and Molotov cocktails. Police responded with rubber bullets and water cannons.
That has deliberately placed illegal arrivals above British citizens. They made their choice. And tonight, the entire country is paying the price. This is their Britain, and it is coming for your community next. Let's not mince words. What unfolded in the last few hours was a national humiliation. 12 major hospitals were not just protested against, they were turned into fortresses under attack. Think about that. The hospital is the very symbol of a civilized society. It is the place you take your sick child. It is the place you take your dying parent. And yet, 90,000 people felt that the only option left was to lay siege to them. The financial cost is jaw-dropping. But how do you put a price on shattered trust? How do you invoice the moment a nation realizes its safety net is made of petrol-soaked yarn? The establishment will call these people far-right thugs. They will call them extremists. But I want to ask you, the ordinary British taxpayer watching this, a simple question. Can you blame the public for snapping? Go to the comments right now. Type yes if you think this anger is justified after years of betrayal, or type no if you think this has gone too far. The media wants to paint this as hate. We want to know if you see it as survival.
After days of loyalist fury on the streets of Northern Ireland, these were youths in a nationalist area confronting police.
For months, the warning signs have been flashing red. You have felt it in your wallet with the asset stripping of the working class. You have felt it in your community, seeing services vanish while hotels for the phantom population spring up with blank cheques from the Treasury. You have felt it in the waiting rooms of the NHS, where the mantra is always the same: wait, there is no capacity, we are under immense strain. But here is the brutal, unvarnished truth they have been desperate to hide from you. In those very hospitals that were set on fire tonight, an investigation has confirmed a shocking reality. Under the Labour government's own emergency housing policies, 7 out of every 10 inpatient beds were occupied by illegal arrivals. Let me say that again, 7 out of 10. While you, a British taxpayer who has contributed your whole life, are told to endure a 12-hour wait on a plastic chair in A&E. A bed was waiting for someone who crossed the channel on a small boat yesterday.
Just off a weekend of night shifts, Scott McCautry is a paramedic in Greater Manchester. During breaks, he recorded video updates for us.
This isn't an oversight, this is policy. It is a deliberate, calculated decision by Starmer's administration to prioritise the needs of the phantom population over the rights of lawful citizens. They have created a 2-tier system, and you are in the losing tier. This was the powder keg, but it took one specific spark to blow it up. That spark came at 7:05 p.m. outside the Mater Hospital. A 20-year-old Afghan national, whose very presence here is a testament to our broken borders, was accused of a premeditated, vicious assault. He allegedly attacked 16 junior doctors with a crowbar. The footage is searing. It is burnt into the retina of everyone who saw it before the censors took it down. Young doctors, men and women who spent a decade in training to save lives, sprawled on the ground.
Please phone 111, and if you think you need to go to hospital, then perhaps it would be a good idea this evening to ask a friend or a relative whether they would be able to take you to hospital should the need arise tomorrow.
Their white coats stained with their own blood. In that moment, every abstract political argument about migration vanished. It became horrifically simple. A weapon in the hand of a man the state illegally admitted, swung at the heads of the people who care for our families. After years of being gaslit, of being told they are racist for wanting controlled borders, of watching their towns change beyond recognition without their consent, this was the final, unforgivable image. The political establishment's virtue signalling had produced its logical conclusion: violence against our best and brightest.
This is about, the conditions that we're working in, the hours on end that we're standing in corridors, the sick patients that we're just apologising to them and the family for being laid on the floor for 12 hours.
And so, the chaos spread. It became a contagion of rage. From Belfast to Liverpool, warnings were flashed to regime enforcers in Birmingham and Manchester, but the units on the ground were completely overrun. They were hamstrung by years of cuts and a woke agenda that values diversity workshops over frontline strength. They were not facing a disorderly protest. They were facing a genuine insurrection. Inside the hospitals, the ultimate betrayal was unfolding quietly. As smoke alarms blared and sprinklers rained down on the sterile corridors, some of the most senior medical minds in the country were doing the unthinkable. Consultants with 30 years of service, specialists who were the linchpins of the NHS, pulled out their phones in the glow of the emergency lights. They weren't calling for help. They were drafting immediate letters of resignation. They weren't staging a walkout. They were surrendering to a state that had failed in its first duty to protect them.
As hundreds of rioters attacked police and set fire to homes in Northern Ireland in what is a second straight night of violence, authorities have described this unrest as, quote, racist thuggery.
These are not easily replaced staff. This is a brain drain that will kill people for a generation. They were then escorted out like refugees through the back exits by exhausted regime enforcers, leaving behind wards that had become active war zones. Meanwhile, in the ambulance control centres, officials made the darkest decision of all. They began diverting calls. That is the sterile, bureaucratic term for it. In reality, they were telling a 999 caller in a life-threatening situation that there was no help coming. Not because there were no ambulances, but because there were no hospitals left to send them to. Entire postcodes were rendered medically barren in 21st century Britain. If you had a heart attack in Belfast tonight, you were on your own. The social contract wasn't just broken, it was shredded and burned in the car park. The mainstream media is desperate to keep the scale of this collapse hidden from you. They want you to think this is just a local issue.
I believe now it's incumbent on the Prime Minister, on the eve of Christmas, to get behind these nursing staff and patients and do the decent thing, get into a room and start to talk to me.
They want this channel shut down because we are connecting the dots they refuse to touch. The only way to see the uncensored truth is to subscribe to this channel right now. Hit the bell icon. We are not funded by global corporations. We answer only to you. And through this entire rolling catastrophe, the live-streamed anarchy, the weeping families, the burning buildings, what was the response from the heart of power? What was the response from Westminster? A silence so profound it was itself a statement. For over 3 critical hours, Prime Minister Keir Starmer was invisible. The podium outside number 10 stood empty. The leadership we are promised in a crisis was a vacuum. When a statement finally emerged, it didn't even come from the Prime Minister. It was a bland, lifeless script, read by a junior minister who looked like he had been dragged out of bed. He utterly condemned the violence and urged all sides to step back. All sides? What sides? The side of the doctors being beaten with a crowbar, and the side beating them?
It's not good. It's not good. We do the job for our patients. Our patients are the priority. That's what we do it for. And the patients aren't getting the quality of care that we want to give them.
It was a statement designed by a committee to offend no one internationally, and in doing so, it betrayed everyone domestically. There was no fury, there was no resolve, there was no promise of restoration. It was the voice of the managerial elite, completely divorced from the visceral, bloody reality of their citizens. This is what the Labour government has brought us. A Britain where the law-abiding are marginalised, where your council tax rises to pay for services you no longer receive, where British farmers are stifled by net zero policies while foreign labour is imported to undercut them, where our British sovereignty is bargained away by globalist elites in suits who have never had to wait 12 hours in an A&E department. They have sacrificed British identity and security on the altar of political correctness and uncontrolled migration.
The choices we've made will mean more people will begin to feel positive change in your bills, your communities, and your health service.
The conditions that led to this explosion are not unique to Northern Ireland. They are the daily reality of millions across Britain. The small boats still land, the hotels are still full, the waiting lists still grow. The same anger, the same feeling of profound injustice, is simmering in every community that has been forced to change without its consent. What we witnessed tonight was a preview. It was a terrifying stress test of a nation pushed to the brink. If the course does not change, if the borders are not secured, if the two-tier system is not abolished, then this will be chapter 1, not the final page. This will not be contained. The establishment hopes that by tomorrow morning, the smoke will clear, the glass will be swept up, and they can go back to business as usual. They are wrong. The conditions that led to this explosion in Northern Ireland are not unique to Belfast. They are the daily reality of every major city across the United Kingdom. The small boats are still landing on the beaches of Kent. The hotels in the Midlands are still operating at full capacity. The waiting lists in the north of England are still growing by the hour. The same anger, the same feeling of profound injustice.
Rishi Sunak is literally missing in action. Where is he? Why is he not taking responsibility for this dispute? He needs to come back to the negotiating table. Stephen Barclay clearly has no authority.
Is simmering in every community that has been forced to change without its consent. We are witnessing the end of the British compromise. For decades, the deal was simple. You work hard, you pay your taxes, you obey the law, and in return, the state provides a safe society and a functioning health service. Tonight, that deal lies in ashes. What we witnessed was a preview. It was a terrifying stress test of a nation pushed to the absolute brink, and the results of that test are clear. The system has failed. If the course does not change and change radically, then what happened at the Mater Hospital is not the finale, it is chapter 1. We are looking down the barrel of a future where the social fabric does not just fray, it snaps completely. Imagine Britain 5 years from now if this trajectory continues. We are moving toward a tiered society, a medical apartheid. On one side, you will have the political class and the wealthy, retreating into private clinics and gated communities.
We need immigrants in this country, there's no question about that. We need people to work in our hospitals, to work in our care services, to work in many, many different parts of our economy. We need workers here.
Shielded from the consequences of their own policies. On the other side, you will have the ordinary British public left to fight over the scraps of a collapsing system. A future where the hospital siege becomes a monthly occurrence, where doctors work behind bulletproof glass, where no-go zones are not just specific neighbourhoods, but entire public institutions, where the state retreats into its bunkers in Westminster, issuing press releases about tolerance, while the rest of the country fends for itself in a lawless vacuum. This is the Britain they are building, a Britain where the law-abiding are treated with contempt.
Do you feel that ultimately what we're looking at here is a group of people, a population of Northern Irish people who feel as though that they have been put under the cosh by political leaders for a prolonged period of time when it comes to both legal and illegal immigration?
And the lawbreakers are treated with compassion. Think about the British pensioner tonight, the woman who worked in a factory for 40 years, the man who drove a bus for 50. They are sitting in cold houses, afraid to turn on the heating because of the energy costs, watching their country burn on the television. They are watching billions of pounds of their money being poured into a system that puts them at the back of the queue. They see the two-tier policing, they see the two-tier housing, and now they see the two-tier healthcare. This sense of betrayal is toxic. It eats away at the foundation of a country until there is nothing left to hold it up. The government believes they can manage this anger with censorship. They think if they ban enough words, hide enough statistics, and arrest enough protesters, the problem will vanish. But you cannot censor an empty stomach. You cannot censor a 12-hour wait for an ambulance.
Another strike, this time more than 17,000 ambulance workers, affecting most of England and Wales.
You cannot censor the grief of a family who lost a loved one because the hospital was full of people who shouldn't be here. So, I put this to you, the ordinary British citizens who keep this country running, the silent majority who have been polite for too long. Are you prepared to accept this as the new normal? Are you prepared to watch your children grow up in a country where safety is a luxury and violence is routine? Or have you finally had enough? The conversation starts here, not in the corridors of power, but in your living room, in your workplace, in your community. What is happening in your town right now? Do you feel safe when you walk down your high street? Do you feel heard when you raise concerns? Or do you feel like a stranger in your own home? Let us know in the comments below. Your voice matters more now than ever because the establishment has stopped listening. They have closed the blinds. They have locked the doors. But they cannot ignore the reality forever. If you believe Britain deserves better, if you are tired of the spin and demand the truth, then you need to stay vigilant. We will continue to shine a light on every betrayal. We will expose every failed policy. We will document every moment they take you for granted. The media has picked their side. The politicians have picked their side. Now, you have to pick yours. The fight for the soul of this country is just beginning, and you need to be in the room where it happens. Stay tuned for the next update.